Shabbat Shalom. In the end of last week's Torah portion, Yitro, after the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai, the Torah tells us that if we want to build an altar in order to bring sacrifices, the altar has to be built a certain way. We cannot cut it with a piece of metal. It can't be made out of hewn stone because that would recall violence and war. And it also has to have a ramp going up to the top of the altar. And then this week's Torah portion begins Mishpatim, and it's about civil law, a tremendous amount of civil laws, monetary issues, the goring ox, all kinds of civil laws between human beings, and that need to be judged by a court. And the question is, what's the connection between the two, between the altar on the one hand and the civil laws that are adjudicated on another? And Rashi tells us, Lama nismacha parshas dinim parshas mizbeach. Why is this? Rashi says, Lo melachash tasim Sanhedrin itzla mikdash. To tell you something geographic, to tell you that on the Temple Mount, the Sanhedrin should sit right near the temple, or in the temple, near the altar. And indeed, this was true. Not far from the altar, in the wall of the temple itself, in what was called the Chamber of Hewn Stone, that's where the Sanhedrin sat. What's the connection in terms conceptually between the two? So the Gur Aryeh, the Maharal's commentary on Rashi, he says that what Rashi is getting at is that they serve a similar purpose, and that is the purpose of peace and unity. That on a vertical level, the Mizbeach, the altar, brings unity between us and God, and the Sanhedrin, the court, justice. When there is strife between human beings, there can be justice to ultimately make a decision. That brings peace between human beings. Another reason I think that may highlight the connection between the altar and the Sanhedrin is the relationship between civil law and religious law. That in Judaism, if you look in the Torah, often civil law and religious law, ritual law and monetary law are mixed together. They're interwoven. That really in Judaism, the civil is religious. Nothing is not part of religious law. And I think the opposite may be true also, that the religious is civil. And this might be part of the metaphor of the Sanhedrin and the Mizbeach being near each other. We see how civil law is religious, because God cares about civil law. How is religious law civil? I think the answer is something that the Rambam says, that the purpose of mitzvot, even ritual mitzvot, are there l'tzarif bahem et habriot, in order to perfect the human being, to make the human being more moral, to make them more civil, to make them to help develop their character and their ways of thinking. And so in this way, religious law helps to form a more perfect society also. And so it's no coincidence that the altar, the place of our religious worship, is next to the Sanhedrin, the place of our justice and our civil law. And we live in a country with, we're blessed with a set of checks and balances in which we can have all kinds of ways, and we see that one needs many ways to ensure peace between human beings. We cannot take it for granted. And one of those is a strong justice system. We are blessed with a system of courts, and that the court has a very unique power to make decisions that can help to check and to balance a society and to indeed create justice. Shabbat Shalom.